In the intricate world of Korean affairs, tailored intelligence makes all the difference. Korea Risk Group's consulting services offer specialized, actionable intelligence designed to guide your Korea-related decisions. We provide bespoke consulting services that cater to your unique challenges and goals. From policy analysis to market entry strategies, we bring clarity to complexity. Transform uncertainty into opportunity and visit koreapro.com solutions today. Hello listeners and welcome to the NK News Podcast. I'm your host, Jacco Zwetsloot, and today it is Friday the 21st of December 2025, and we're doing something a bit different. This is for the second last episode of the year. This is the Christmas Day episode, and so we're doing a year in review, and I'm talking to all of my journalist colleagues at NK News and NK Pro in ones and twos and sometimes threes perhaps, to talk about their favorite story or stories of the year. And so we're starting off, we're kicking this one off with Anton and Jooheon. Welcome, gentlemen, on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Hello, Jacco.
And let's start with you, Anton. What was your the story that really sticks with you this year?
So, well, of course, after covering Russia DPRK exchanges for several years now, and especially the past year, there's been so many things, and it's very hard to zoom in on one particular thing. There's been lots of developments, the North Korean troop deployment, the additional troop deployments of deminers, the death of the Russian ambassador to North Korea, you pick it. But actually, I wanted to focus on a few stories that received some attention, but they also paint a broader picture of North Korea's reach in terms of nuclear capabilities. In one particular story I wanted to bring up is the story about a Russian state atomic energy corporation, Rosatom, actually seeking to deliver a highly radioactive isotope to North Korea. This element is called cobalt-60.
Okay, what's it used for?
So here's the thing. You can use it for whatever you want. You can even make a dirty bomb with that, right? While it is unlikely that that was the purpose of that particular shipment that Rosatom was preparing for, we should state that it is possible to use it for...
There's still potential.
But it has a high potential of being used for weapons. But most likely it was used actually for medical purposes, because usually it's used for X-ray, so taking X-ray scans. And, well, just needless to remind you, right, that we had the one high-profile cancer patient in North Korea that passed away this year, right?
That's true.
Kim Jong-nam, all right? And that makes a lot of sense why North Korea is focusing on this. A lot of the cadres, high-profile cadres, are aging. North Korea is now trying to revamp its healthcare system. They're focusing on introducing new hospitals. Stuffing it with new equipment. There we go. And why this story sticks with me is...
Oh, and when did it break, by the way?
So, yeah, that's the thing. We are not certain whether the delivery actually has taken place, but we know that the Rosatom was looking to do it. And actually, this corporation's website still lists this particular government procurement bid on their website. So you can actually go there and see that they are not hiding. They are saying that, yes, we are planning to deliver it somewhere between April 2025 and December 2025.
Big window.
Yeah, hence...
I imagine it's a sanctioned item?
No, unlikely. They probably would have to notify the Atomic Energy Watchdog and make sure that this delivery is conducted. But if it's for medical purposes, it's likely excluded from the sanctions. However, it still highlights how North Korea can access these sensitive materials, and Russia is ready to provide those.
Still, I mean, it does sound like the ultimate dual-use item, right? I mean, as you said, it can be used for treatment or diagnostics of cancer, but it can also be used in a weapon. So it does sound like something dual use. I'm surprised that it's not explicitly sanctioned. But it's interesting to see that this delivery was advertised and may actually have gone ahead.
Right, and you still can check it on their website. No one's hiding. Though the operation, of course, is a little bit murky because the Rosatom is not the one that is going to carry out the order, so the delivery, so they had to subcontract another firm, and of course it's a bit of a clandestine operation.
What was the quantity we're talking about, and is it something you could just stick on a plane, or does it require very special shipping?
So that's the thing. It does require a special container. It's not a very simple thing to deliver. And a firm that is up to the task is supposed to have certain clearance. Of course, it must have the certificates that clear it for handling very hazardous and radioactive goods, basically. Right. And well, we know that it was supposed to be delivered from Vladivostok to Pyongyang airport, but well, we don't know whether it happened. It's still out there. It's just another dimension showing how closely Russia and North Korea are collaborating right now.
Jooheon, any questions or comments?
Mainly was, are there any signs that cobalt-60 has been used for other purposes than X-ray that you've noticed so far?
So for cancer treatment, they do use it. Hypothetically, that's the worst nightmare of experts and nuclear scientists, that someone would use it in a dirty bomb, dirt bomb. It is possible. At the same time, we know from certain researchers, we know that cobalt-60 was actually available at one of Pyongyang hospitals. I don't remember when, but in the 80s, they already had this. Because this radioactive element has a very short lifespan, it means that they are desperately looking for replenishing their stocks.
Right, so you've always got to get new stuff. Now, of course, back in the 1980s, Russia was, or the Soviet Union was interested only in helping North Korea with material for peaceful nuclear use, nuclear reactors, and for medical treatment. Things are a bit more ambiguous now, though, aren't they?
Exactly. So that is why I'm bringing it up, actually. And that's why it merits certain attention. It's because now Russia is training North Korean geologists at uranium facilities, right? Uranium mining facilities. There's multiple exchanges between Russia and North Korea in terms of nuclear science, with North Korean academics visiting Russian nuclear research centers, being showed to training nuclear reactors. And of course, well, that is something that we know from state media, from official press releases, but imagine how much stuff there's going on that goes below the radar. So
how did you stumble across this story?
Oh, well, magicians don't reveal their tricks, so I will sit out on this one.
Okay.
Fair.
Thank you, Anton the magician. Yeah, okay. Jooheon, what's your big story that really sticks with you this year?
Well, it was quite a historical piece. It was 15 years since the sinking of the rocket Cheonan this year. It was in March
of 2010.
Yeah, 2010. That's when 46 sailors were killed. It's one of the deadliest inter-Korean incidents at the NLL since the Korean War. What's known right now is that a North Korean torpedo, presumably fired from a North Korean submarine, underwater submarine, sunk the rocket Cheonan in the Yellow Sea. So the interview that I had with the former captain of the rocket Cheonan.
Because he survived.
Yes, so he survived with a couple of other of his sailors.
Wow.
So he was very reluctant to do the interview at first, just because of the fact that the issue is still very much politicized domestically.
What's the politics around it?
Well, there's been a lot of disagreements and discourse in the political spectra here regarding the causes of the rocket Cheonan.
Yes, I remember at the time that a lot of people in South Korea's progressive political camp were reluctant to accept the results of the International Fact-Finding Commission that found that it was North Korea behind it.
Exactly. So, as I mentioned before, it's already been internationally determined that it was a North Korean torpedo, but of course, as you mentioned, progressive factions within the current Korean political spectra have been very skeptical since it was an incident that happened under a conservative administration, under the Lee Myung-bak administration. But of course, that politicization does in turn affect the trauma that is still carried on, the PTSD that's still carried on with the victims of this attack, and also the sort of guilt that they feel that their comrades died, but they did not die. So what the captain was telling me was that this issue has There was a lot of long-term support, but that has very much faded, especially with the entrance of progressive administrations, such as the Moon administration, such as the Lee administration now. But of course, I think that he really does criticize the entire political spectrum for using the Cheonan incident for their own political gain, which was quite interesting. The other things that I found quite interesting was that he was commenting a lot on South Korea's improved naval strategy, or what he deemed to be. So there are improved anti-submarine warfare tactics that South Korea currently employs.
Presumably these are lessons learned from 2010?
Indeed. So what we've seen is that not just from the Cheonan incident, but a plethora of cases that happened from North Korean provocations towards the Yeonpyeong Island.
Which was in the shelling was
exactly.
in November the same year, 2010.
Exactly. So, and then even before 2010, you also had naval incidents at the Daecheong Islands in 2009. That's when I think South Korea's military strategists really knew that North Korea would go into any other attack without incentive. So what they were basically trying to do is, with those North Korean attacks, the ROK Navy is now much more strategically advanced than it was in 2010, of course, as would any other military be from 2010 to 2025 with a 15-year gap. But what he was saying was that there is a lot of improved ASW capabilities, anti-submarine warfare capabilities. So long-range detection missiles, low-frequency sonars within South Korea's own submarines, but also Aegis warships, and also the helicopters and the Poseidon patrol aircraft that's currently under the Navy's jurisdiction. So what he was saying was that there needs to be a shift towards a much more quieter electric propulsion within South Korea's underwater assets, and also much more advanced Aegis systems to make sure that South Korea still gains the upper hand in North Korea's arguably larger submarine count than South Korea's underwater capabilities.
Was your interview with the former captain of the Cheonan conducted before or after the election of Lee Jae-myung as president?
So it's before the election of Lee Jae-myung. It's also before the impeachment, seeing as March 26th does fall before April 4th. But basically what he was saying was that there was also quite a few comments regarding the political trust of the military and regaining political neutrality of the military as well. So there was a lot of distance that he wanted to sort of put to the fore, where he wanted to distance himself from the idea of politicizing any sort of event like Rokas Cheonan or the Yeonpyeong Island attack that the progressive administration or the progressive, members of the progressive camp have been tamed to do. So I think that the main takeaway and the closing message that he gave, which I think resonates with the sort of Patriots affairs here and the Veterans affairs, is that he wants us to remember that there were ordinary sailors who were just doing a patrol in the Yellow Sea when they were attacked by a torpedo, and that a stronger defense posture is needed for the ROK Navy in order to prevent incidents like this happening again.
Any comments or questions from you, Anton?
Oh, yeah, actually, I have a question. You mentioned that the progressive administrations were sort of compelled to sort of keep it quiet on the incident. And in a book, maybe you know this book, it's by Professor Brian Myers, Sarampa Jimotan Ngunghagu. He mentions that when the Yeonpyeong shelling incident and the Cheonan happened, well, the public reaction was somewhat subdued in South Korea, and he brings up the comparison to other countries, and hypothetically, if it happened in other countries, people would probably be super outraged by the incident, whereas we didn't have that much reaction, and it was quickly swept under the rug by the media as well. Do you agree with that? And what do you think the reason was?
I think the thing that was really interesting in the Cheonan captain, or the former Cheonan captain interview, was that he wasn't just criticizing the progressive politicians. He was also criticizing the Lee Myung-bak administration at the time. Because what happened right after the Cheonan incident, right after the sailors were taken out of the water or taken off the sinking warship or the corvette, they were taken to these hospital facilities, and then afterwards, still dressed in hospital garb, they were basically put into a public press conference in front of the local media, where cameras were all taking pictures of the captain in his military gear, in his military uniform, sitting in the middle while he was flanked on both sides by these sailors who were 19, 20 years of age,
Right.
and in hospital garb, which is a very visual sort of humiliation, as what he was saying was that it was a humiliation for him and his sailors. And that image really did resonate with the crowd as seeing that these guys are not survivors of an incident, but instead they're people who survived while their comrades died. So they're seeing them as 패배자, so the defeated.
Not the heroes.
No. So, and the media and the administration and that image still did resonate, and it still is a comeuppance of trauma for many of these individuals involved, including the former captain. So it is what Mr. Myers was saying in his book too. There is a certain level of truth to it that says that the media, the administration at the time, and also the public, there was not as much support that was required in terms of emotional support, in terms of support for these individuals domestically. International support was broad, but domestically, especially led by the politicians and the media, it was something that the captain was very ashamed to recall those memories.
Interesting. My last question to you is, I wonder if there were an opinion poll done tomorrow, whether people believe that the Cheonan was sunk by a North Korean torpedo or some other cause. Do you think that there'd still be this wide level of disbelief as there was in 2010?
I don't think it'd be as wide, but I think that it would be fair to predict that there would be a certain percentage that's not as substantial as before, but still lingering.
No.
But I'd like to place the hope that the majority of the South Korean electorate and the South Korean public will be still viewing and coinciding and aligning with the international assessment that it was a North Korean torpedo that sunk the ROKAS Cheonan.
Okay, well, that's where we'll leave it there today. Thank you for bringing to us two very important stories, and then I will swap you out with some other colleagues that I'll interview next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Jacco.
See you next year. All right, this is part 2 of the year in review, and we are now on Monday, the 22nd of December, and I'm joined here in the studio by Chad O'Carroll and Jeongmin Kim. Welcome back on the show, both of you.
Hi there.
Thanks for having me.
And let's start with Jeongmin. You've got two stories that are linked, both about the still new President Lee. I mean, he's only been 6 months in office. So what's the story there that really sticks with you for the year?
Right. It's basically not a single story, but it's a string of a theme. Lee basically is a very particular type of a progressive leader that was elected this year. I can't believe election was this year, after impeachment, which was also this year. And he did a pivoting right.
Yeah.
And then my question when he started was, will it stick? And it did. And did North Korea like it? No. It's basically the theme that I covered throughout the year.
Did you see this coming at the time? Did you say, he'll probably go a little bit rightward? And did he go further right than you imagined, even if you did see it?
Specify at the time.
Okay. All right. Let's say before June 4th, when he was elected.
Well, up in the build-up until June, it was pretty clear that he was working on looking more centrist and even conservative in certain policies, especially, econ, chaebol, business-related stuff. But when it comes to North Korea as well, he did not really mention it all that much during the build-up, during the election campaign. And then once he was elected, he did include North Korea into the acceptance speech, but he framed it along the lines of not really focusing on unification and like we're compatriots and we have to unify, but more along the lines of we have to make sure that there's no clash and peaceful coexistence, which sort of overall it stuck until the end of year.
Yeah, so no one's going to call this policy so far a rehash of the old sunshine policy of Kim Dae-jung and Roh Moo-hyun, right? Partly. Okay, tell us which parts are a rehash.
I think because that era policy gurus, are somewhat hired into the part of the cabinet, like Chung Dong-young, the current unification minister.
Yep, he has returned from being away for a very, very long time.
Yeah, so you can see signs, like little hints of those languages staying, but not specifically about North Korea, because the North Korea threat environment and just relationships changed a lot. But when it comes to U.S.-related inter-Korea relations, that language still stays. Like when it comes to opcon reclaiming or transfer, you can still see a little signs of how the Sunshine Policy era ideology still is staying, but not from Lee himself all that much.
Would people who are nostalgic about the Moon Jae-in era, would they be happy with Lee Jae-myung's current policies?
I would say 섭섭해 a little bit. I'm not sure how to translate that. That was a debate earlier in the office. Maybe a bit hurt or betrayed a little bit. But also, they are not the strongest voice public sentiment-wise right now. So I think they still have a bit of patience to stay, support President Lee's initiative, which is basically pursue denuclearization on paper. He does say that in the policy initiative, but he doesn't really push for it, basically letting Trump do his thing. And it looks like the progressives are largely okay with that because they understand the environment. North Korea just does not want to talk with South Korea.
Right. And installing Jong Dong-young as his unification minister, which he was under Roh Moo-hyun 20 years ago, was that a sop to the base? Was that, to sort of appease the progressive base of the Lee Jae-myung camp? Because it does seem that Jong Dong-young is prepared to go out further over the skis than anybody else in the government is.
I think it's two things. One is to balance out the language that is coming from the cabinet. If it's just the National Security Advisor Ri Sung-rak and Jooheon, the foreign minister, all like very modern, contemporary, centrist types, like realpolitik types, the progressive base might not be too happy. So balancing it out with these people might be one calculation. Another part might be philosophical as well. Although Lee is apparently trying very hard to look centrist. He is a guy who used to say he wants to become South Korea's Bernie Sanders in the past. He used to be the Gyeonggi province leader who was really, really serious about inter-Korean
economic cooperation.
So although he's not really working on it right now, and he knows that it will bite him in the back if he pursues it right now too much, I think having someone like the NIS chief, Lee Jong-seok, and also the unification minister, it's like a good backup in case something happens and he needs to move quickly.
All right. And how's North Korea been, since you wrote these stories back in June and August, how's North Korea been responding?
They hate it. But I think it sort of feeds into their calculation that Lee, one, is someone fundamentally quite similar to Yoon from their perspective, calculation-wise, not as provocative as Yoon was. But when it comes to understanding that being largely aligned with U.S. is South Korea's interest, I think that's what Lee is really going for. Maybe involuntarily because of all the economic coercions, but North Korea understands that Lee is not a type of guy who would really go against the U.S. too much.
Right, so they're not going to be able to push him around.
Yeah, no. And also, Lee does not like the optics of being pushed around. So I think they know that North Korea cannot really easily get something out of him. And also, it's his political weak spot, like China and North Korea related stereotypes that he used to have.
Yeah.
And also, North Korea also understands just realistically, South Korea does not really have much to give to North Korea that North Korea wants, which is, nuclear recognition and stuff. Like, what can South Korea really do about that? Nothing.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that when Lee did turn off the loudspeakers, the North Koreans did follow up.
They did reciprocate.
And both Koreas, I was at the border last Wednesday, and we tried listening to radio, and there's just nothing coming in from North Korea whatsoever. And there's nothing
Does
going
that suggest that North Korea is not sending, or that South Korea is effective at blocking, jamming?
I don't know, because usually when you're driving around up there, you can hear the radio coming on briefly, but last week there was just nothing, and we tried pretty much every frequency that we could. So I don't know. It's interesting that while on the one hand practically they're rejecting South Korea's advances, they're also reflecting some of them.
Yeah.
I have a theory about that. I think it's just that they just don't want to be bothered by two fronts. I think they are very much focused on observing what's going on between U.S., Ukraine, and Russia, and meanwhile standing like very friendly and true to the mutual defense agreement that they did with Russia, actual troops getting there and trying to talk to the domestic public like how this happened and why this happened, and then having a variable on the inter-Korean border that just not makes much calculative sense to North Korea. So I think they are also just trying to prevent anything crazy from happening.
Okay,
it's not in their interest.
It's just focusing on what they're focusing on.
I think so.
Yeah, okay. Now, Chad, what's been the story that sticks with you into the next year from this year?
Well, it's one that we actually did a prediction about at the start of the year, which was about whether or not tourism would restart in a meaningful way. Because
what was your prediction?
We predicted that there would be...
You predicted.
I predicted that the marathon would be ticketed and that they would be welcoming guests and then they would cancel it at the last minute. Now, that didn't happen.
Marathon went ahead and we know our Dutch friend Bart was there and I talked to him on the podcast about it.
Yeah, but the overall trend of cancelling short notice, they did do that. So do you remember Rasson briefly reopened for a bit and then
they had 2 trips to Rasson and they said no more and there were people scheduled to go.
Exactly. So and then there were the 2 trade fairs, I think in spring and autumn. And the same thing
autumn
happened.
went ahead, but the Westerners were not invited, right? With the exception of a Swiss person and a few other people.
Yeah, but I think it was Young Pioneer Tours did sell a lot of tickets for that like a business delegation to go to the trade fair, and then that all got thrown upside down basically. So while the prediction was not like spot on, the general gist of it was correct. So
you feel justified and
I was wrong for the right reasons, as they say. So
so classic.
Is that what Tony Blair said after the Iraq invasion?
Yeah, he did. He doubled down on that. Yeah.
Don't do that.
Did you expect TikTokers becoming a variable?
No, and that's been a huge part of it. I think the TikTokers.
A huge part of you think of North Korea not opening its borders to more Western tourism. Is that what you think?
Yeah, because these people are hard to control.
Influencers.
They have very large audiences, much larger, to be quite honest, than many of us journalists. And some of the like recordings that were going out were like talking about how North Koreans use human excrement to work as fertilizer, and it wasn't really a very positive, I'd say, impression. But what's weird though is the Pyongyang Marathon ostensibly is going ahead for spring now, April to be clear, and they seem to be okay with 500 foreigners coming in. I was just talking to someone about this a little earlier, and like why are they okay with that, but then the regular tours are not happening?
It is a mystery, isn't it? Interesting.
Yeah. But then the other thing is, so I've spoke to quite a lot of visitors who've been this year, and a couple of interesting things came up. One is that the same guides are working with different groups that come in. So it's a very small pool of guides. That
you mean the KITC guides from the North Korean side?
Yeah, but so there's that. And then the other thing that a couple of friends mentioned is that a lot of those guides from KITC and other agencies have just literally all moved on in their lives. They've been
a long time
reassigned to state-owned enterprises, factories, and so there's like a real absence of tour guide in North Korea. So yeah, I think it raises big questions about what happens next year. Are we going to see a renewal of tourism, or is it just going to continue to be very low number of delegations with Westerners for things like friendship groups, etc.? So,
are you leaving that as an open-ended question, or would you like to make a new prediction for 2026, Chad?
We are going to be doing predictions soon. I don't think I'm going to be doing a tourism one, so I can have a stab right now.
But do it right now.
I would say probably we're going to continue to see just like limited groups go in and no resumption of actual tourism, where the likes of Koryo Tours, YPT can just take regular bookings for itineraries.
Just going beyond that, how do you feel about the likelihood of further opening of Western embassies and UN and other NGOs in North Korea?
Yeah, so UK and Germany are 2 embassies which have still not reopened from the European Union and, Brexit, former EU.
I think both for different reasons, though, right? I think one of them has chosen not to right now, and one of them has been told you can't come right now. So
there's that, and then the UN, there was meant to be a I wrote a story about this quite recently about International Maritime Organization delegation to Pyongyang plus UNICEF and WHO. And from what I understand, the IMO one went ahead, but the UNICEF WHO one got pushed back to January. And one source told me he believes the North Koreans are just doing the bare minimum to keep the UN sort of hopeful that a resumption could be possible, but probably it's not going to happen. I think the key thing to think about here is that since the pandemic, while we have had some access resumed to Pyongyang and there are embassies reactive there, probably like 95% of the North Korean geographical landmass has had basically no foreign visit or travel for over 5 years now.
Well, in fact, 4 weeks from today, it'll be 6 years since North Korea shut the gates.
Yeah.
Right?
So
that's
really
like a
something. Large, who knows what the conditions are like in many of these places. And I think probably that's part of the reticence on the North Korean side to not want to have tourists and NGO workers and UN workers, gallivanting around the country and seeing what living conditions are like.
Jeongmin, what's your take? What do you think? Is this an important story? Is it significant that foreign tourists haven't been allowed in the way that they used to be? There were always small numbers anyway.
Right, small numbers, and also it was like, on and off from time to time, depending on the tension level. But I think something fundamentally changed recently from North Korean perspective since COVID. It's like a long haul rethinking of what foreigners mean for Pyongyang. I think that fundamentally changed a lot after experiencing not many foreigners in Pyongyang and then being okay with it and actually realizing, there might be actually good things coming out of it, which is, better for their security, no leaks, less risks. And I think because of that, the story is important, but not like little news developments on like who goes in or not, but more like, why is Pyongyang doing this? What's the calculation? I think that part is new.
And one recent visitor, sorry to interrupt, told us that he believes one of the key concerns is knowledge about South Korea proliferating through foreign tourists. And in particular, one of the issues with the Chinese tourists is that if you have Chosunjok tourists, ethnic Koreans from China, going in, they are much more likely to be able to talk Korean and share, pretty full detail about what it's like. We've even heard that some of the students there now, like at Kim Il-sung University, for them to
you mean foreign students?
Yeah, for them to move around the city has become a lot harder than it was before. So all in all, it sounds like there is just a lot of concern about knowledge coming in. And another thing that
would explain why in the North Korean restaurants in China that South Koreans are regularly turned away, while foreign folk who live in South Korea, they're allowed to come in, but their Korean companions are told,
right,
you got to hit the road, Jack, you can't stay.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I think reflects this issue is several visitors have told me recently that when they've been in Pyongyang, they've been quite surprised at how much South Korean style language they're hearing from just general population, which suggests somehow that despite all of this pressure from the government to limit South Korean influence and Pyongyang language to promote that in particular, it doesn't seem to be working. So maybe the government in North Korea is facing a kind of difficult situation with trying to control that influence, and these foreign tourists and delegations sort of feed into that.
Yeah, wow. Okay, that is very interesting. Thank you very, very much for joining me on the Year in Review. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
And we're back with three more colleagues around the table to talk about their most memorable stories of the year. And I'm joined by Jooheon, Colin, and Shreyas. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Okay, let's see. Let's start with Shreyas. Your story of the year, the one that sticks with you the most, the one you've selected, is about a big heist and then the aftermath of the heist. So tell us the story.
So North Korea has very much emerged as the world's biggest crypto thief in recent years, and it's become a big part of how the regime funds its weapons development.
Hang on, so you said it's the biggest. So it's bigger than any country and even any organized crime outfit. It is the largest single actor in heists.
Indeed. Year after year, it is, when it comes to cryptocurrency theft, when it comes to virtual theft, North Korea has been number one for many years now.
Wow.
And this year, it went and shattered its own records, not just over the course of the year, but in one single heist. It went when North Korea's Lazarus Group went and stole $1.5 billion, that's billion with a B, from the Dubai-based exchange Bybit. Before that...
And they actually managed to get it out, because I remember that they stole $1 billion from the Bank of Bangladesh but couldn't get it all.
Yeah.
But this time they got it all.
Yeah, and I think they've increasingly realized in recent years that targeting these cryptocurrency exchanges and other crypto services is a much better option than just targeting large centralized banks that have much more rigorous security procedures. When it comes to cryptocurrency, they essentially manage to make use of their proven social engineering skills, which they use in a lot of other cyber campaigns, their phishing campaigns, for example. But they leverage it to gain access to cryptocurrency services networks. And when the opportunity arises, they just strike and withdraw as much money as they can get.
Does anyone here in this room own any cryptocurrency of any sort?
No.
No, okay. I don't own any, but if I did, after all these stories, I would keep any cryptocurrency that I had in a cold wallet. I think that's the right term, a cold wallet, one that's air-gapped from the network so they can't be stolen?
That would usually certainly be the best way to do it. Essentially, cold wallets are offline as opposed to the permanently internet-connected hot wallets. But in this case, that didn't really help.
Oh, go on.
Because in the case of Bybit, what North Korea did was they managed to get access to a wallet, a cold wallet that was connected to Bybit systems. It was actually a third-party wallet. They didn't even have to breach Bybit itself.
Whoa.
And so they managed to get access to that through their social engineering campaigns, just sending out phishing lures and everything. And then they waited weeks, perhaps months, just for waiting for an opening. And then during a routine maintenance window, during a brief gap when they actually thought we have a chance now to go for it, they went and transferred Ethereum tokens worth about $1.5 billion in one fell swoop. And
Ethereum, all from one wallet.
Well, essentially, they managed to use that to get access to Bybit systems and then transfer money out.
Remarkable. God, it's a lot of money. Now, for a long time I've been hearing, Shreyas, that the problem with stealing cryptocurrency is that although it's anonymous, it can be tracked and traced, and so it's not always easy for North Koreans to use that money. What's happening now?
Well, that is often the case at the start, where you can track the initial funds. But North Koreans have become experts at essentially concealing the flow of stolen funds. They managed to put it through what a cryptocurrency mixers, where those tokens mix with other currencies, or they managed to put it through decentralized exchanges, other services, where they can essentially conceal the sources and the destinations of the flows. And in that way, it makes it a lot harder for investigators to figure out where exactly the stolen funds have gone and keep track of them. So it has, and in this case, very quickly, as soon as they made the initial transfers, they went and made a series of other transfers to intermediary wallets, and then quickly started putting them through their favored mixers, their favored exchanges to throw people off and conceal the funds.
They're really skillful. Why have you chosen this as your story of the year, Shreyas?
I think the big part was just the sheer impact of the attack. I mean,
you mean on that particular exchange, or just on the crypto world in general?
I think everything. That the crypto exchange itself was big enough that they could survive. They've even managed to. They managed quite well since then, but I think it was a big wake-up call for the cryptocurrency industry. Many people already knew that North Korea was the most prolific crypto thief, but it definitely extended beyond just the companies that were most likely to be affected, because no one had ever seen a heist on this scale before. It wasn't just the biggest crypto heist ever, it was the biggest virtual heist of all time.
Oh my.
And
they're probably not stopping there, right? I'm going to guess that number will be topped again next year.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly don't know if they'll be able to manage another heist, a single heist to this scale, but they don't really stop off that. So from what we can make out, judging by the estimates, they've hit about the estimates varied between different blockchain research firms, but multiple sources suggest that they've stolen over $2 billion in total this year. Most of it was obviously from the Bybit heist, but they've clearly continued, and they managed to keep laundering those funds more and more efficiently after initially obfuscating them through the mixers. They've then moved on to essentially putting them through a Chinese laundering machine that revolves around lots of over-the-counter brokers and underground finance networks.
Jooheon, Colin, any thoughts, any comments, any questions?
Yeah, I think the impact that it has on North Korea domestically is something I think we should think about. And caveat that I don't have the evidence on hand, like directly linking this stuff, but just coincidentally or circumstantially, in North Korea, the kind of money that Kim Jong-un is spending on, say, the 20 times 10 factory project, where he promises to build factories in 20 towns every year for a decade. All of this is Chinese machinery. It's very well stocked, new, nice production lines. If you compare it to the kinds of like factories that they would open each year, usually in the past at the end of the year, it looks a lot more advanced. And what I'm saying is I'm guessing that Kim Jong-un can look at this, $2 billion and be like, my project of pacifying the rural population, which has an income gap problem that he talks about openly. If I can kind of put, some of these funds, earmark some of these funds, a small amount of these funds for all these factories, it looks like something he's probably doing.
Yeah, and it's good that you mentioned that, because the multilateral sanctions monitoring team, which an 11-nation initiative that succeeded the former panel of experts, assess that essentially cryptocurrency theft combined with North Korean weapon sales to Russia at this point contribute more to North Korea's economy than anything they had, not just in recent years, but even before the sanctions that took effect in 2016-17. And so there is a very direct knock-on effect in terms of, as Colin mentioned, the leadership's priority projects, whether it's economic development, military development, or even their own personal slush funds.
Yeah. Extraordinary. All right, Jooheon, what's your story of the year?
So mine is about a North Korean defector who was working here as a truck driver, but he was blocked from entering the Blue House. He was just trying to deliver construction materials. But
the Blue House, of course, is where President Lee Jae-myung now lives. After former President Yoon decided not to live there, but it's the presidential palace, the Blue House, the top office.
And I think Lee Jae-myung is getting back there soon.
Oh, he's not there yet. Okay, so he'll be moving in soon.
Right.
Okay, so now for what reason was this North Korean defector truck driver turned away?
So he was just supposed to deliver the construction materials, but his job was canceled just the day before the delivery, and the Presidential Security Service did apologize, saying it was just an administrative mistake. So I guess one of their employees didn't really know that defectors were also ROC citizens.
But you've got to think about the process of this, right? Like, first of all, how did they work out that he's a defector? And then somebody at some point made a decision, oh, he's a defector, can't let him in. It sounds like a bit more than a simple administrative mistake, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like there was something more than that. But the Presidential Security Service they're just giving a very short answer. It was just our mistake.
Are they saying he could come again if he were to deliver those tiles one more time?
They said, the defector status isn't really a security issue.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay. Why did you choose this as your story of the year? Why does this stick with you?
Because I saw his story from KBS, and then I got to meet this person.
Ah, you interviewed him. Okay.
Yeah. I got his number from someone else, another defector, and it's really hard to find a defector's number because
So, security reasons.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool.
Has he experienced other forms of discrimination living here in South Korea?
Not really.
So that was the one that really stuck out in his mind.
Yeah, he said he was a big fan of Korean dramas, and that's one of the reasons he came here.
You mean when he lived in North Korea?
When he left North Korea,
he was watching Korean dramas illegally under North Korean law. Where's he from in North Korea? Is he from the border region?
From Hamgyong province.
Okay, so he's from up near the border.
He got the Chinese TV around the border.
He was able to pick it up with what, a satellite dish?
I think so.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, look. Hopefully, if it is an administrative mistake, this kind of thing won't happen again. Colin, Shreyas, any thoughts, any comments on that?
I mean, honestly, I think the main thing is, even though we've certainly heard from Jooheon about the incident and everything, always just going to ask why, like, any of this happened. And it's curious because it doesn't seem like something that really benefits anyone, like, to do something like this. So hopefully having stories like this, like shining a light on stories like this, at least make sure that potential discrimination is reduced or goes away.
Well, does this fit into a pattern that we hear occasionally from North Korean human rights groups and from defector groups, that when there is a progressive president in the office, in the Blue House, that defectors suddenly have a worse time. They face more discrimination, less assistance, and other things. Do you see that as part of a pattern, Jooheon?
Yeah, when I saw Lee Jae-myung speaking with Chad, I thought that was pretty obvious.
You're talking about the forgotten South Korean prisoners who were held up in North Korea, right?
Right, and among them there were some defectors, the ones who were repatriated to North Korea from China. But yeah.
So for you, this is definitely part of a pattern. Colin, any thoughts? No. Okay. We will go on now to Colin. What's your story of the year?
I chose the expansion, construction of prisons in North Korea. So something that I found in satellite imagery and that I've covered across many stories this year, you can find on our website. And basically there are at least 10 prisons in North Korea where they're doing major or minor reconstruction, probably 7 or 8 total reconstruction, and that includes one brand new prison that they're building.
From scratch.
From scratch.
Wow.
You can call these kyoaso prisons, these kind of not considered political prisons. Like, it's not understood by and described by defectors as a place where they pull people away for their political beliefs and throw them into a prison. It's not that kind, but political stuff can get mixed up in this, especially these days, where there's an apparent crackdown on so-called anti-socialist crimes. Anyone who's doing anything which authorities perceive to be not contributing to the all for one, one for all socialist mentality and work ethic.
And that could include watching a South Korean drama or speaking with South Korean vocabulary.
Yeah, it can get quite nuanced, but I would say it potentially involves something you can perceive as political crimes on the outside here. But anyway, so it started in late 2023. It's continued throughout this year, so that's the last 2 years. And I think it says a lot about, you can interpret it in different ways. You can interpret it positively, that it means Kim Jong-un wants to formalize his prison system. I think one very interesting thing was we could see they cut into the grass or bushes outside of the very large prison in Siniju on the border with China. I forgot the slogan now, but some kind of slogan about like justice or the policing. So I think if you can kind of view it more in the Chinese style of, we will talk about our crimes, or we will admit that our population does crimes, and we're very stern about it because we're a strong socialist state. They're not doing this openly. They're not talking about any of this prison construction, by the way. It's all
in their internal media,
right? Or in media that we can see. It's all just discovered in satellite imagery,
right?
And
are you able to say anything about sort of nationwide? What's the scale of the increase? Like, are we suddenly have they doubled the capacity of the prisons nationwide? Or
I haven't quantified it exactly like that, but with a whole new prison, that's potentially thousands more prisoners that can be held. That's just south of Pyongyang. And with the improvements at the other prisons, you could probably say it expands their capacity. So yeah, on the one hand, it makes the living conditions better, where in the past people just die in these prisons because the conditions are so dire. That's according to defector testimony.
Yeah.
Some of it quite old. But on the other hand, it signals this attention from Kim Jong-un on wanting to crack down on what people are doing in the population. I think that it all comes together, like what I talked about earlier, his focus on rural construction, his open talk about the wealth gap between Pyongyang and the rest of the country. I think he's really concerned about the population outside of Pyongyang.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. They're seeing Pyongyang develop in a way
Sure.
that's maybe more than ever before.
Yep.
The propaganda shows it, and they're like, people are like, oh, actually, it's not just like a pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
Pyongyang is developing actually pretty well right now,
Yep.
kind of like to the Chinese level, and we're not seeing it. So he's really focused on the rural, and that means, develop it with this 20 times 10 project, which I would have other comments on that I don't have time for right now about whether it really is developing the rural areas, and crack down. And that means putting more people in prison potentially. So I think it's a big story, something to keep watching. We don't have all the details yet.
Yeah.
We might see this kind of formalization of the prison system in a Chinese fashion. Maybe someday they'll start giving us crime statistics. I kind of doubt that, but I think something's going on here, in which we're going to find out more in the next year.
Let me get some comments from Jooheon and Shreyas.
I was wondering if they could get executed just for watching K-dramas and stuff. From what I've heard, like they've been changing a lot of the laws there. So yeah, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't have that on my mind right now, the details of how those laws work. I think there are misconceptions about how easily you can be executed for some of this stuff. I think re-education is a big part of their system, and that goes back to a few years ago where Kim Jong-un spotlighted these young wayward criminals and tried to send a message to the population that if you do something that's not revolutionary, like anti-state revolutionary, if you do something like, oh, I don't like the politics, I don't like the ideology, I'm going to go off on my own way, I don't like going to, do this volunteer work, that you can get a second chance. He'll bring you back into his bosom, his big bosom, as he likes to call it. And you can get a second chance. And basically it's just trying to encourage people to do good for the state. So maybe there's a philosophy there. If you give people a second chance, re-education, you can get some use out of these people later in life. I don't know. But I think executions are still a big part of their system. We see those warnings during COVID. We know for a fact they threaten people with execution for things that you don't get executed for
in most other countries.
Yeah.
Here's a practical question for you, Colin. When you're looking at satellite imagery of a prison, are you able to identify what may appear to be execution facilities or a place where executions take place within a prison?
No, not at all. And I haven't done that kind of detailed work. The kind of work that maybe like DPRK or other
Transitional Justice Working Group,
where they really a lot of my work builds upon their work, where they actually have just used defector testimony to actually locate these prisons. What I do is I go through the map and just check what's going on at this place, which other people have already identified, and then I'm like, oh wow, look, it's being totally rebuilt, and that's the story that I wrote. And even in those, they'll be like, maybe this is the like the prison wards. Maybe this is a workshop, but there's not. I've never seen someone label a building like executions. I mean, yeah.
Shreyas, any thoughts?
No, I think just one thing perhaps that I'd be curious about, but I think this may also be based on observation of other legal changes in North Korea. I would be curious if a lot of this expansion and modernization, or at least expansion and strengthening of the prison system does it signify perhaps a lowering of thresholds on punishing individuals, or is it more going to be about enforcing the restrictions that are already there? But I think that would probably feed into a lot of other.
I don't know. Maybe it has to do with improving the actual system. I mean, there's a lot of bribery in North Korea. Maybe Kim Jong-un wants a law to be a law, and for people to know that punishment is coming to them no matter what bribes they give. Maybe the whole prison system needs a revamp. I mean, he's been hanging out at the Boibu, whatever you want to call it,
the State Security
Agency, and the Ministry of Public Security, the police. He's been putting a lot of attention on those ministries. So I think we can assume some revisions are going on.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining me here on this review of stories for 2025. It's been a big year in North Korean news, and of course, next year will be even bigger. So thank you all for coming on, and we'll see you very soon.
Thanks, Jacco.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Score more for less with our NK News Shop discount campaign. Ready to upgrade your wardrobe with some unique flair? At the NK News Shop, podcast listeners buying any 2 items from our t-shirt or hoodie collections will snag their third for half off. Whether you're eyeing our North Korea-themed gear for yourself or as gifts, now is the perfect time to act. Don't miss out. Head to shop.nknews.org and make the most of this limited time offer. That's shop.nknews.org. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our podcast episode for today. Our thanks go to Brian Betts and Alana Hill for facilitating this episode, and to our post-recording producer genius Gabby Magnuson, who cuts out all the extraneous noises, awkward silences, bodily functions, and fixes the audio levels. Thank you, and listen again next time.